Well, hi, good morning. This is Mark Winwood online from Duval, Washington. The last time we saw each other, spoke to each other, was in the funeral parlor at New Smyrna Beach, where you guys were renting space on a weekly basis. I know you're in your own church now, your own building now, so I congratulate you on that. Lots has happened, obviously, for all of us in the 6 years that I've been gone from Florida, and I'm recording this on Wednesday afternoon. I assume on Sunday I'll be able to see you. It'll be nice to see so many familiar people, so many familiar faces. I do want to say that I regret and was saddened to hear about Charlie. We'll be missing not seeing Charlie online. Charlie was a real friend and a great heart. And I really, really enjoyed my time with him, visiting with you guys out in New Smyrna Beach. We're going to be talking today about something called the Buddha nature. And I'd like to say right off the bat, instead of perhaps calling it Buddha nature, because many of us can't really relate to Buddha, see Buddha as some kind of mysterious religious character, perhaps. Consider the word Buddha means awakened, awakening, awakened, realized, enlightened. So when we talk about Buddha nature, we're talking about awakened nature or realized nature, or maybe the easiest way to say this is realizing our potentials, our greatest potentials, our vastest, most harmonious potentials is what we refer to as Buddha nature. So I'll be talking about that today, and I do want to say before anything that everything that I share with you comes through the graciousness and the kindness of my teachers, and those are teachers that I have been personally involved with, and these are the teachers that go all the way back 2,600 years to the Buddha. They're all my teachers, our teachers, and any mistakes or anything that I say that is misspoken is completely and totally my responsibility and has nothing to do with them. Their teachings are perfect, and I strive to emulate in any way I can their abilities and their kindness. So we talk about Buddha nature, and Buddha nature is a really remarkable discovery and teaching of the Buddha, Siddhartha. I would like to say, certainly here in the West, that I approach, and many of the people I share Dharma with, Dharma is the teachings, many of the people I share Dharma with do not approach Buddhism as a religion, don't see it as a religion, and are not interested in seeing it as a religion. Buddhism is a psychology. Buddhism is a science. Buddhism is a way of life. It's a perspective. It's a process. It's a curriculum. It's a way of living in which one is able to cultivate our very best, wisest, most compassionate, harmonious, wholesome, beneficial, meaningful, profound, et cetera, qualities, all of which lie resident in our mind. Every sentient being is a being with mind, a being of mind is a sentient being. And by the Buddhist teachings, every sentient being has within our mind complete and perfect awakening, perfect what might be referred to as enlightenment. Every sentient mind. And that's not just in the human body. That's in animal body, that's in insect body, that's in fish body. Some of the teachings, some of the scientific teachings even go so far as to say that some of the organisms that live in our body that help us to live, some of those organisms as well are sentient, are beings with mind. So every being with mind has within the mind this potential this incredible potential for, let's just say, for perfection, as anybody might imagine perfection to be. We call this Buddha nature. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I hope that this talk is, not sure it'll be inspiring, but perhaps it will be grist for your thinking mill, something to think about, something to wonder, something to consider about yourself and the people around you, the people in your world, your family, friends, etc., etc. There is no, to consider this notion of Buddha nature, there's no prerequisite. You don't have to be experienced in the Buddhist teachings. You don't have to know how to speak Sanskrit or Pali or Hindi. You don't need to be able to sit in a lotus position. You don't need to meditate. You don't need to do any of that. The only thing that I ask, and over the years I've seen the importance of this when it comes to these teachings, and I suspect any teachings, is a sense of humility, a sense of humility. And when I talk about humility, I'm not talking about seeing yourself or seeing ourselves as inferior to others, you know, a nice, quiet, humble, soft, uninvolved type of person. That's not what humility is about. Humility merely means that you understand that anywhere you go, anyone you're with, anyone who's crossing your path knows things that you don't know and has something to teach you. There is something to be learned everywhere we go and with everyone we are with. And this is the mind of humility. I'll say that I've seen the importance of this since I've been out here in Washington for the past 4 years. I've been volunteering at a local men's penitentiary, working with the inmates, in particular inmates that are within 2 years of being released, trying to share these teachings with them. They're not interested in being Buddhists. All they're interested in is getting out of prison and not getting into trouble again. They're going back to their environment. They're going back to the same people, the same places, the same community, except now they're convicted felons. They have no money, and they're going to have a tough time, certainly in this economy, but they're going to have a tough time finding a job. And these are tough guys, and you would not think that these are people who would tend to be humble, but every one of them that I work with, and there's probably about 50 guys right now, every one of them portrays and displays humility. They're there to learn because they've come to experience some of their shortcomings in terms of their motivations and their activities. And there is a humility that it's thick in the air. They listen to these teachings, and the progress that they're making, a few of them have gotten out already, it's really remarkable. The prison chaplain comments on it all the time, that he wishes that the traditional Christian programs could have as much of an influence as these Buddhist meditations that we do. So, and I think the Buddhist meditations do have an impact on their acceptance and understanding of whatever other programs they might be involved in, be they Christian or Jewish or whatever they might, or just social programs, wherever they might be. So Buddha nature, Siddhartha, the Buddha, upon the night of his enlightenment, and I won't go into the background of his whole story. This whole story, you can see it online. It's a very famous story. But on the night of his enlightenment, he came to 3 or 4 major discoveries about himself, about his mind, about the history of his mind, the quality of his mind, the experiences of his mind, and the power of his mind. That is, those all contributed to his enlightenment, if you will. And what I believe is perhaps the most profound discovery that he came to about his own mind is that deep in his mind, below personality, below memory, below experience, below emotions. Deep within his mind was this well of what he called Tathagata Garbha. Tathagata Garbha is the Sanskrit word for Buddha nature, this absolute perfection of mind. And to kind of put it bluntly, the way to look at this, I believe, is to imagine anything that your mind is capable of achieving. Imagine anything that your mind is capable of experiencing. And if you can imagine it within your mind, and obviously there can be some very negative things that you might imagine, but we're talking about the wholesome, the positive, the meaningful, anything that you can imagine within your mind, intellectually, in terms of knowledge, in terms of intuition, in terms of computing power, anything you can imagine within your mind is doable. It is there. And it only needs to be uncovered. It's one of the wonderful notions of Buddhist enlightenment, or what's known as nirvana. Is that we're not looking to go find something and bring it in. We're not going to buy anything. We're not going to take any pills. It's not a question of reading and memorizing texts or anything, drinking some magic potion. It's nothing like that. The whole path of Buddhism, and I think this is really profound for anybody, Buddhist or not, the path to happiness, if you will, happiness, is to uncover the potential within the mind to be happy, to be truly not happy in terms of momentarily being happy because I got the red Porsche I've always wanted, or I won the lottery, or the rain has stopped, or whatever. Not that kind of happiness. We're talking about happiness as an enduring, ongoing, persistent attitude that you take with you, that we take with us everywhere we go. Everything we see, everything we experience through the clear window of the mind, the happiness, the Buddha nature of the mind. So we have distributed some handouts just for you to take a look at. And there's one that is called Buddha Nature. And it's very short. One of my challenges was taking the probably 300 documents I have on my computer. You know, I've been teaching this stuff for 15 years, always preparing handouts, and my hard drive is a mess. Lots and lots and lots and lots of handouts. So it was a challenge to boil everything down to these 2 pages that we distributed. But the idea of Buddha nature, this is really from the way up high. What is Buddha nature? All sentient beings have it, whether you are aware of it or not, whether you are ignorant of it or not, whether you think you are the world's most brilliant, kindest person, or whether for whatever reason you think your life has been a series of challenges and difficulties and hardships, and you'll just never have what it takes, or there's lots and lots and lots of folks running around who just see that their abilities are limited, their ideas are limited, and these limitations are some kind of a permanent nature. I am an angry person, therefore I am angry all the time, and everything I see makes me angry. That is so completely not true. That is so completely not true. One of the beautiful ideas, and Buddhism, like so many other philosophies, Buddhism is full of metaphors. There's a metaphor for everything. There's more than one metaphor for everything. And one of the ideas, one of the notions of Buddha nature is to visualize that your mind, that our mind is in the nature of the sky. It's in the nature of the sky. It's all around us. Even though we look up to see the sky, we're really kind of in the sky. The ant who's on the ground in front of your feet looks up, and the sky is, you're in the sky for him or her. So the idea is that the mind is like the sky. It is vast, it is clear, and no matter what is in the sky, if it's clouds, if it's pollution, whatever it might be, those things come and go, but they never alter the quality of the sky. Clouds don't leave footprints that are there forever. They don't leave scars. Pollution, as we've seen with the pandemic, how skies all around the world have cleared. And, you know, people in northern India who weren't able to see their hand in front of their face are now able to see Himalayan peaks 150 miles away because the air has cleared. This is the nature of the mind. And all these emotions, all these ideas, these familiar judgments, these knee-jerk reactions that we make in reaction to whatever it is we're seeing or hearing or thinking or tasting or smelling, all of these knee-jerk reactions are transitory. They're transitory. They're there, they exist for a moment, and then they're gone. But the clear nature of the mind, the perfection, the Buddha nature, the awakened nature of the mind is always there. It is always present. And if you can even begin to think about that, if you can even begin to perhaps believe, well, maybe that's so, you know, Buddhism is a path of analysis and study and contemplation. Nothing that we hear, according to the Buddha himself, nothing that we hear should be believed without thought and consideration, about thinking about what it is you've heard, comparing it to your own experience, your own understandings, and see if it cuts mustard or not. So the notion of Buddha nature, it's there. It awakens in a gradual, progressive manner. So I like to tell folks, you know, that I'm working with, and sometimes they look at me and their eyes open wide. I like to say, look, you know, we're all awakened. We're here studying because we know that there's something beyond what I already know and understand that I would like to know. I would like to get a sense that everything is not the way I've always been told it is, you know, my narrow-mindedness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So people kind of wonder about this notion, and, you know, metaphorically by the Buddhist teachings, the metaphor I like to use is that the absolute nature of our mind is like a 150-watt bulb on a dimmer switch. So the dimmer switch, as soon as it goes up to 5 watts, the room is no longer dark. There's a little bit of light. Awakening has begun. And then progressively, day by day, moment by moment, understanding by understanding, engagement by engagement, that awakening dimmer switch increases a little bit, a watt at a time, a watt at a time, a little bit more. Connections, insights begin to formulate in our mind. And when insights begin to formulate in reaction to what we are observing and participating in around us, this is called the awakening or the budding of wisdom. This is wisdom. Wisdom arises in the mind. It can't be injected into the mind. It arises in the mind. And wisdom is one of the key aspects. It's actually the foundational aspect of what we call Buddha nature, because it's from wisdom and understanding that compassion and kindness and patience and generosity and ethical behaviors and et cetera, all that wonderful Buddhist stuff that people associate with, all of that is a byproduct of wisdom, of understanding. And this is really kind of the vein of gold that is within Buddha nature, or Tathagata Garbha. So what we're doing, you know, we're really very much on the surface. I'm trying to introduce to you this idea, this concept understand that it is the notion, the idea of Buddha nature that is at the core of the deepest, deepest Tibetan philosophical and meditative practices. There are different schools of Tibetan Buddhism, and where they all agree at the beginning of the Buddhist teachings and so on, it's when we get into the psychological nature of mind and the capacity of mind and the quality of mind and the content of mind that the different schools of Tibetan Buddhism begin to kind of like wild hair go in different directions. But all schools believe in and teach this notion of Buddha nature. So on this handout, in summary, just talking about some of the advantages of knowing, just, well, forget knowing, knowing's not a good word, of believing, of thinking about, well, a little bit of open-mindedness, perhaps this relates to me, perhaps this applies to me, perhaps this Siddhartha fella who lived 2,800 years ago in northern India, whose teachings have spread all over the world, and very, very wise people have studied and shared for their, the entirety of their lives. Dalai Lama comes to mind as a good example. Maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's, maybe there's something I ought to think about, I ought to understand. One of the, or some of the advantages of the knowing of the possibility of Buddha nature that may begin to occur. And I will tell you that the results of Buddhist practice, Buddhist study, Buddhist meditation are not immediately felt. It's one of the reasons that so many people have difficulty with meditation, because folks think that they're going to sit down on the meditation cushion and, after 20 minutes, there's going to be this warm feeling inside, and they're going to get this beautiful look on their face, and their eyes are going to get very soft and a very gentle smile, and everything's going to be wonderful. That's not how meditation works. That's not how the Dharma teachings work. The way this works is that we study, we think, we contemplate, we learn, we sit, and when we least expect it, an insight occurs. Something happens, a different perspective when we're with people that we're familiarly with, perhaps a moment of patience when you're sitting in a traffic jam on I-95. One never knows. One never knows where this wisdom, where things are going to connect in the mind and yield an insight that manifests as a sense of awareness, as a sense of confidence, as a moment of patience. One never knows. And that's the way these teachings manifest. When we least expect them, there they are. And sometimes that's quite dramatic. Sometimes people that we're normally with, that are familiar with us, may look and say, that's different. You never said that before. Or you usually get so angry, or what's going on with you? What's happening with you? So that's the way Buddha nature kind of sneaks up on you. But there's no doubt that something changes. There's no doubt that something is occurring in your mind, and that is it's the blossom. It's the boot, it's the bud, the seed blossoming in your mind, and when you least expect it, there it is. So what does this blossom entail? It could be a spontaneous, natural joy. I'm reading from the handout that's been distributed. A respect for other sentient beings, human and or otherwise. Remarkable, I used to use all the time living as I lived in Yalaha for years, and one of the real challenges in Yalaha was the cockroaches. Oh my gosh. And that's one thing I'll tell you about Washington State. I've been here for 6 years, no cockroaches. Haven't seen one, not one. Those big things that used to fly around, not one. We've got jillions of slugs, I'll tell you that. They're everywhere because it rains all the time. But the idea is that I remember one night we were teaching in Yalaha, and I had a house full of people, and one of those big cockroaches came fluttering through the air and landed right on the floor in front of me. And there were a couple of people that gasped, and one of the people who were in attendance immediately got up and said, "Oh my gosh, look who's here." And she went into the kitchen and got a cup and brought the cup out, with a piece of paper, got the cockroach in the cup and put the cockroach outside. And we talked about that. And she said, a couple of years ago, I would have been one who shrieked. No longer. There comes a respect for other beings, not just human beings. Certainly for human beings, although human beings can be kind of hard, as we know in this political climate. But there's a respect, and it just comes. It's just there. It's something that you don't cultivate intentionally. Just happens. There's an intelligence that begins to occur. There's a wisdom that begins to occur, and perhaps most importantly, and maybe most surprisingly for people, there is a deep sense of, well, it's not deep at first, but there is a progressively deepening sense of self-confidence. There is a deepening sense of ability, of understanding. There is less fear, less separation, less, if you want to call it, duality. There is a communion. There is an interdependence and an interrelationship that begins to arise and manifest at the darndest times, a result of this Buddha nature that once again can be cultivated. It can be fertilized. It's there. It's a seed. It's a seed in your mind. It's just waiting, just like a seed in the ground waits for the moisture and the temperature and the pH and the season, and then up it comes. Nothing can keep it from coming up. The seed of Buddha nature in each of our minds is there, and it's just waiting for the proper conditions, such as calmness, such as ethical behavior that allows the mind to settle instead of being crazy and agitated and static all the time. Perhaps a meditation practice in which we begin to breathe very healthily. Be surprised the effect of breathing on mind. It's one of the things meditation teaches us through example. To be generous, to be harmonious with others, to try to help others instinctively. All of these things, it's like a network. The Buddha, the seed is there, but it's a network of thoughts and intentions and actions and perspectives. It's a network that fertilizes and provides the atmosphere for that seed to begin to manifest. And then this awakening, for lack of a better word, this awakening from what? Awakening from ignorance, awakening from not knowing, awakening from self-centeredness, self-obsession, selfishness, etc., etc. Is this concept of Buddha nature. So I think I've spoken for about a half an hour, which is my time frame. I could go on for 3 hours on this. And it is Wednesday now, but I'm intending to be here with you on Sunday morning. And we'll be happy to answer questions. And I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing some familiar faces and sharing once again the time with you. I don't remember the name of the restaurant that we used to go to. Mom's, was that it? Mom's on Route 1. I don't remember the name. There was a little cafe that we used to go to, and always enjoyed the strawberry waffles that they had there, I remember. But I look forward to seeing you again, and I thank you so much for allowing me to do this. And I was supposed to be there in person, but obviously things have happened and I'm not there. But perhaps in the months to come, I do have kids in Florida, and I intend to come back and visit in Central Florida, Orlando. So perhaps we'll be able to get together once again. And thank you to all who have made this possible. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so very much.